met a gypsy.
One thing that really interests me in this like whole picture is the relationship that somebody like you would have with the voice in your head. And like, do you have those moments where you hear like that classic like flow state where everything's silent, I can't hear the crowd, the only information that you're processing is like vital information? It's like that internal gyro that you're feeling. It's like, can you feel, like you hear the stories of like Ricky Carmichael could feel pebbles on his front tires. Like, can you relate to the experience of that internal conversation with yourself just completely dropping away and just being so close to the moment that you don't feel any different from it, if that makes sense?
I don't think I ever got to that point. Yeah, kind of hard to explain. I never got to that sort of flow state. I would force myself into those states in terms of I would shut everything out. So it was just between me and my thoughts rather than anything else. But that was normally in the pits when I was thinking about things and there's crap going on everywhere and mechanics, bikes changing, cameras in your face, all that sort of stuff. And then I could just literally switch off and think about where I needed to improve. Or I found those sort of states when I was mentally going through corner by corner what I was feeling on the bike, and then maybe give a little bit more information, like looking for more. Yeah. That I could almost picture what I was doing through what the bike was doing and what I didn't like, something that I'd forgotten to relay to the chief mechanic, and then I'd be like, oh yes, I do remember that happening now. So go back, tell him about this and that. They could go see it on the data. Yeah, we bottomed out there. Okay, so now we've found the problem. Put a little bit more either spring in it, put a bit more oil, hold it up a little higher in the stroke, and then we fix that problem. So there was lots of things like that where I could sort of switch off, but I never got into like a flow state. For me, I was always present.
Really? And so you were always like, essentially, because that is that flow state is no thinking, like no thoughts, no internal dialogue. There's no conversation with yourself. And I mean, I relate it to like the place where I feel that the most is like jiu-jitsu. Like there's nothing. Like I'm gone, completely gone. I think that's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's because I can just go there and just be out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a lot of people have that. A lot of people get that with riding. A lot of people get that with, watching TV. Like it's just the self-referencing stops. Like you're looking, like right now I'm looking out into the world at you, and I know you're looking back at me. Like I know I'm here and I'm in this picture, and it's very obvious.
I'm in a state right now.
Yeah, it's very obvious I'm here the entire time. But it's like you can get into those moments. Like, for me, the easiest one is jiu-jitsu, and it's like I'm kind of not there. Like I'm there, but I'm not in that sense. And then when I'm done, like once it's over, then I literally like feel myself come back.
Yeah. And
it seems honestly crazy to me that that's not an experience that you would have had while riding and doing because you think about mountain bikes is another place where I get it, especially like the harder the track, the more I'm there. And it's called the technical term for it would be called like absorbed flow.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on that essentially it's like unnecessary
I think
parts.
it all comes together that it hazes for you. Basically, it's not it's sort of more of a haze than actually being in the moment and completely understanding every little bit that goes on. By the sound of it, even with jiu-jitsu, it's sort of you go in and it's just a state of you're in that moment, but it's sort of almost hazy and everything around you's not registering at all. It's just what you're sort of focused on. And mountain biking I suppose would be a good example. But for me, I've never been able to get to that kind of state. For me, I see everything, I hear everything, I notice everything, every little rock and tree root and all this sort of stuff. When I'm going down the hill, it never ends up just a blur to me, or in a state I'm just seeing every little thing, and it's something I've had to try and switch off.
Yeah.
Because it keeps my brain going too much. I was always looking at every detail, and I would see scenarios. So I'm driving on the highway.
Yeah.
I would see scenarios. I would watch cars and they're not paying attention, and that happens. What if that happens? What would I do? Just constantly, the mind was just going in that sort of way. So yeah, having to sort of back off. Like even I remember in so many races, especially when I had big screens to watch on the track.
Really?
I'm pulling away at the front, and it's coming easy to me that day. We're talking about those ones that are coming easy, and you're watching the big screen because that lets me know what's going on behind me. Pit board you only see once a lap, but big screens I can see 3 or 4 or 5 of them around the thing, and I'm watching the race and going through the corners, and then basically I had to try and keep myself a little bit present sometimes because I'd be starting to think like, oh, what we're gonna have for dinner tonight, and having to keep myself. So then I started to go corner by corner and just focusing on every aspect of my braking and doing it all bit by bit. So I've never been able to go into any kind of sort of ignoring state unless I'm thinking about like I said, what was happening on track. If I could go back and think about, say, if I went on a mountain bike trail and went from the top to the bottom, at the bottom I could sort of stop, and if I had to download that trail, I could go through it and remember everything that I did and saw and hit and all the rest of it, and then I could sort of black everything else out. But yeah, I've never been able to get in a sort of a flow state. I was always quite present.
That seems crazy with everything because I guess like the mountain biking version of it and that like absorbed flow is basically that the risk is so high of anything going wrong that it is just like absorbing all of your available like attention bandwidth to where like your brain shouldn't let you drift off and like watch the big screen and think about think about what you're gonna have for dinner. So like it seems crazy that at the speeds that you're going and the level of commitment that was required to just like, you guys are fucking throwing the bike into turns. Like it is.
It kind of flows sometimes when the bike's turning and everything's working.
But the drop, like the drop from here to there, and then to back, like that's a lot going on,
Yeah, but when you know your braking points, the bike's working well, and sometimes the weekends they don't come to you well. You gotta make them come to you, and it's a lot harder. And then other weekends when everything's just gone right, and the bike's been working well, every step you've made's been in the right direction, and then you get out front and it's just like, man, this is easy. The thing, I've got grip today. I'm just disappearing off into the distance, and it's without difficulty. So those are the days you often didn't like seeing other riders have, because you used to see them going off into the distance and you're going, hey, I can't do anything about it today. So I was never that guy that would just push harder to stay with them and fight with them and all that sort of stuff. It was just like, no, I've got to take what I can't get today and try and do the best I can.
And so with the physical speed element of it, like how did you just get used to, like, do you think that the brain just gets used to the speed? Do you think it's something where, like just purely repetition, or do you think that you can just intellectualize the speed to where it just makes sense that you can go that fast? Like, how do you think that the relationship is between like the human brain and like going that fast? Because we're not supposed to go that fast.
It's true. For me, it comes back a little bit to that gyro again. I always felt that I was quite good at adapting to different speeds, and I'll get to where I was going with that after, but it definitely takes a little bit to get used to. For me, it always took generally one exit the start of each year, but especially when I hadn't tested for years, and then I came out and did a test with Ducati. Like, you come out of turn 3 in Sepang and then head up to turn 4, which you start getting on it, and then you go, oh crap, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Eyeball starts shaking.
Yeah, it's you forget how freaking powerful they are, and then you go into turn 4 and forget about carbon brakes, and they don't work until they work, and then all of a sudden you're trying to stop going over the front. But what I felt I was quite good at was adapting to different speeds. So I was never the guy like Jorge will just go brake, hit his mark, hit his mark, hit his mark, hit his mark. For me, I was saying I was on that edge. That's why my bike was moving. I was on that edge of grip, everything like that. So sometimes that edge would slip me a little bit sideways going into a corner, and I'd miss my apex by a bit, so I'd bring it back around further and try and use that as a benefit to pick it up, drive it out of the corner, and get more speed down the straight. So I lost a little here, try and gain a little bit back there. But when you're doing things like that, you're changing your speed at the end of the straight. So you hit your same braking point, you're going to miss your corner.
Yeah, right. So your points were always more adaptive.
So my points were always more adaptive. So it wasn't that I wasn't inconsistent. You know, I could go out and throw down 20 laps within a tenth. But then sometimes the little mistakes, and when you correct those mistakes, you're either going into that corner slower or you're going into that corner faster. Now, when you go into qualifying, you got a heap more grip. You're going to be arriving to those corners quicker. I was quite good at adapting to those points. So I could brake that bit later, knowing that I'm going there quicker, but I could brake at that right point where I knew I had the grip to stop. I would adapt to those situations quickly. And same thing, if I made a mistake, ran wide and came out of a corner slower, I knew I could brake a little bit later. So it's just judging and adapting your distances so that you're basically hitting the same point and, you know, not running wide on the next corner or braking too early where you're losing another couple of tenths. It's that easy. You lose 2 tenths on one corner by running wide. You can lose 2 tenths under the braking point there. There's nearly half a second.
Yeah.
It's that easy to lose that much time. So adapting and keeping yourself adapting is quite hard, and it's why you see so many guys running wide these days. All they do is just brake late, late, and then that little tiny mistake, and they're running wide.
Around the whole track.
Exactly.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.